I have a teacher. His name is Rabbi Yitz Greenberg,
Yeah.
Irving Greenberg. And one of the things that he taught me, he said, the purpose of Judaism is to build a world in which every single human being is treated in the image of God as infinitely valuable, unique, and equal. And what he said was, if this is the goal of the Jewish people, no single generation can accomplish this on their own. That we need each other, each generation, to do its best to take the goal, the covenant, as far as they can, and then to pass it on to the next generation. And I think that in order to do this, the Jewish people, we need to have community and family and Torah and Jewish practices and Jewish culture. And we also need non-Jewish people who are our partners and our allies who also believe in this purpose.
Yeah.
So here's what I'm going to try and do today is my hope is to step back and to let you and the students here build a bridge between the generations. And so the challenge is going to be not to give a talk, but to create a conversation, to make a dialogue. And I think what we're hoping to do is to build a container or make some sparks of connection and meaning, which we hope that future generations will be able to learn from and ignite in their own ways.
And Shabbos often looks very different in different homes. For some, it's observed very strictly and it's filled with time in synagogue and perhaps Torah study. And for others,
Yes.
it's more of a time just to have fun and just to be with family Friday night. I was wondering if you celebrated Shabbos or other holidays as a child, can you describe what that looked like and meant to you?
Brought us up in a household with her Italian husband, and there was also the caretaker who was Hungarian, non-Jewish. Told us that we were Jewish twice a day, but nobody should know it. She was still with the mentality of during the war, that it's dangerous. You should be proud, but it's dangerous. It was a very mixed message for us. And we didn't celebrate any holiday. It was me, when I started to, I think in my 20s, it was maybe 24, I started to really want to know what it is to be Jewish. And I started to go to the nearest Jewish community, which was in Trieste. Now I observe totally. We are observant. We observe the holidays. We enjoy. For me, Shabbat is one of the best day.
I feel quite similarly. And for me, I think Shabbat is, I would characterize as my break, my restoring my joy of the week. And by that, I mean that Shabbat for me is a time of discussion over shared meals, a time to play with friends, a time of relaxation, and just a time of understanding that the day is not meant for progression, but really meant for relationships and community.
Yes.
Kind of similar to what Shai was saying. I think Shabbat is kind of like, it's the end of the week. I mean, when God was like creating everything and he was making the days of the week, Shabbat was like the day of rest. And so similar to what Shai said, it's the time of the week where we too shall rest and we can kind of like take a break from all of the chaos that happens throughout the week and focus on ourselves more.
To what extent are we obligated to maintain our religion, our values, and traditions?
To the absolute, to the top of the mountain, because our traditions and our philosophy is to do good. How could you not want to continue that? How could you not want to make the world a better place to be?
I mean, I was wondering, because I think especially for Jews, especially after the Holocaust, there's this balance, right, between being proud and being distinct, but also trying to maintain safety and trying to preserve ourselves.
Yes.
Do you think there's a balance that we've struck between trying to be safe and trying to stay distinct, or do you think we have more room to grow?
That's a good question. I think we always have more room to grow. We are always doing at least, from all of the things, from the super religious to the people who are not. Judaism has always been a positive kind of, that's my feeling.
In addition to Tikkun Olam, do we have an obligation to practice particular Jewish practices? Like, do we have an obligation to engage in other Jewish values like Shabbat or prayer or anything else? Or do you think it's ultimately sort of distilled down to Tikkun Olam?
Well, I'm not sure about obligation. I think that it is a kind of a powerful word. Obligation has to do with your own inner feeling within you. Do you feel that it is your obligation? And if you do feel that it is, then you should practice it.
I like that answer.
Yeah, I like that a lot too. I mean, I know I come from a more like reform background than most kids at our school. And so I think it's interesting to think about that, because I'll go to prayer services with other kids at Milken, and I find that I feel, quote unquote, less Jewish, in those types of circles, because I feel like I engage less with the religion. But then I think about just my internal sense of, am I engaged? Do I love Judaism? And I find myself answering yes, and I think it's an interesting sort of back and forth.
That's the power of Judaism. That's the power, that it doesn't have those specific, streams that are limited. It's open. It's in your heart.
In a post-war society, when we have different relationships with our countries, like they're not nation states anymore, they're not empires, how do you think that we should approach supporting our country, whether that be Israel or America, in like a moral and righteous way?
Well, my country, right or wrong, if it's right, then to be very adamant about what you're saying. If it's wrong, to be very adamant about that too. So, it's easy to be objective about something that is distant from you. It's very difficult when you're involved. If I'm criticizing someone who's close to you, you're going to feel the pain as well. If you go to the national level, countries have been set up to defend and protect their own, which means automatically whoever is outside of that boundary is from another country, is a foreigner, if you will, and if not a potential enemy. So I think the solution is to say, okay, history is important because that's what got us over here. But now let's see what it is that we want. Are we satisfied with what this is? And is this fair? Is this just? And if you have any doubts, then be open to changing. And that's very difficult, very difficult.
An important lesson that I learned from my parents is to ask questions. It's very much ingrained in the Jewish tradition. to ask a lot of questions. And so I was wondering, or we were wondering, what is an important lesson that you learned from your parents?
My parents were the most amazing parents for many, many reasons because of the circumstances, the war years, and I went from great, for my parents, prosperity and good life to nothing when the communists came, and then we were imprisoned because we tried to escape from Hungary. So the lessons I've learned from my parents are very, very meaningful. They carry me throughout life. Even at age 78, I think of it all the time. First of all, they said never to dwell on the bad, always walk, just look forward, look ahead, and never dwell on the bad. You don't want pity.
So you've already mentioned how living through the Shoah has taught you resilience and that you've wanted to instill that into your family. And I know that in my life, my father grew up in a very anti-Semitic place in South Africa and went through anti-Semitism, definitely not to the extent that you did, but how has your experience during the Shoah influenced the way you have raised your family?
Well, I think I alluded to all of it, to raise them as Jewish people, because what we went through to survive as Jews was enough, that it's only a way to honor the next generations. For example, we have friends who don't ever want to see a Holocaust-related movie or anything like that. My mother always said, we need to honor those who perished and watch those things, because we're here to live, to enjoy life, and they're not. So it's our way to honor and memorialize them.
I feel very, very happy to see that you are the future generation. And from you, there will be other generation. And teach your children what you are now. And remember what you are now.
Thank
Thank you so much. Thank you, Henry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Susan. It was great.
Thank you so much, and thank you and if you have any other questions, I'm always open.
Thank you.
Thank you.
so much.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you
Thank you very much.
very much for your time and for all of the wisdom that you gave us.
Thank you, and for your time, for your beautiful souls.